It's going to be biting into the faces of Scotland in this first half. Jaque has us underway. Scotland against South Africa. And the initial take was from Edinburgh's Ali Hoggett, charge down. And immediately, having done the first thing properly, Scotland mess up the second thing and put themselves under pressure. Taken on by Ruan Smith. 5 years now since he enjoyed his test debut against Scotland, and already Scotland are in deep defence, having failed to clear their lines from the kick-off. January goes digging. It's very slow. This is Adi Jacobs, scorer of the try against Wales in Cardiff a week ago, and having handed the ball to the box from the kick-off, the box then give it back. Three players diving in off their feet, and Scotland will have the relieving penalty to touch.
Well, Scotland had a great start last week against New Zealand, but a commentator's nightmare. We talked up Mike Blair and how effective he can be and how he was last week. First time he touched the ball, you can see here he just gets it charged down by Bakis Botha as a big frame, and all that did was put Scotland under severe pressure. But to be fair, the defence held out. Here at the end here you can see Adi Jacobs completely exposed, and Nick DeLuca got on the ball there.
First line out goes Scotland's way, quickly tapped off the top, invites DeLuca to run into midfield.
Wait, lads, on the floor, on the floor.
Phil Godman, cross field, but only into the grateful arms of JP Peterson. Well taken by Hogg.
Hands down, go, Richard!
Pitch is a little damp. It's been dry over the last couple of days, but it's a bit wet underfoot. Blair gets that kick away. It's gathered in by Ruan Pienaar. Shunted across the back line. He's normally a scrum half, but he played really well in Cardiff. Jaque. I can't recall him passing the ball from fullback against Wales. That right foot must have been sore on Saturday evening a week ago, and early indications that they're happy to put boot to ball early here as well. This is Schalkberger. Blonde hair behind him, on the charge up to halfway. Penalty to South Africa. What an athlete Schalkberger is. Probably the best back row in the world at the moment. Schalkberger part of it. This is Jaque, now running with some menace. Bright start for Scotland. Picked up one-handed by Pierre Spies. The ball was knocked forward. The advantage was over. Scotland have got the scrum, but they've got some big problems.
Yeah, well, I think we can see what South Africa are all about here. There was a bit of kicking tennis going on, but when Schalkberger got the ball, he was going to do only one thing. This is the end here. They all went over the ball. You can see the knock on there. Mike Blair and Ben Cairns came around to put good pressure on, and Scotland have to do that. Scotland have to compete in the contact, because that's where they got blown away last week. But here's Schalkberger. DeLuca, he'd stood his ground, he made a tackle, he couldn't go high with the weight difference. There was a penalty at the side there. Nick DeLuca coming off the tackle, came round the side, but they got the advantage. And Schalkberger there, you mentioned he probably would be in the best back row. I wouldn't say he's the best back row at the moment. I would have thought Richie McCaw would have a say in that argument, but it's been an interesting start, Nick, because I think we've seen what New Zealand, what South Africa are going to be all about. Physical, we know that. That's what they give you every game they come out.
Bismarck du Plessis, the Sharks hooker, back rather gingerly on his feet. Another big afternoon for du Plessis, filling the hole normally occupied by John Smith, the man who lifted the World Cup in Paris. Smith just a step to his right now, playing at tight head prop. Let's see how he goes in this first scrum. Results in a free kick to the box, an early drive. Here goes John Smith with a purposeful drive over the 22. It's been a great start for South Africa. Scotland have been in defensive detail. There is Berger again. Ruan Pienaar quickly to de Villiers. Habana. Well, Jerry before the match was talking about Habana coming in field to get involved, to do a little bit of overtime, and perhaps rather wishes he didn't there.
He's on his feet, not a problem, no advantage.
I think we could probably hear David Campese saying, "I told you so," somewhere in the world, wherever he is. He gets the dummy pass, the dummy run there behind, but I mean, it's slightly behind him. It's on his left shoulder, but you've got to say he should take that. He will be frustrated, you know. I mean, I don't obviously agree with David Campese a lot, but he hasn't really shown up so much since the World Cup, and I think that's sometimes inevitable with such a high of being viewed as the best rugby player in the world, as the IRB World Player of the Year. It's very hard to keep that going, and my worry, as I shared with Gregor before, is that he only needs a small chance and he can take it.
Now this is really significant, because we talked about Bismarck du Plessis getting up rather gingerly, and South Africa have been forced into a very early change. Brian Majati, the Stormers tight head, is coming on, and having talked so much in the build-up to this match about John Smith, playing at tight head, and he was saying that his 8-year holiday as a hooker was over. I think he found it pretty tough against Wales a week ago. Well, John Smith is now back in a more familiar position, and that will have disrupted South Africa's rather serene start to this match. They've lost their hooker du Plessis, but they've got Smith to move back into his more favoured position.
No bad replacement, is it? World Cup winning hooker. This will be interesting, the scrum. Scotland, and in particular Ewan Murray, had a very good day against All Blacks last Saturday. Put Jamie McIntosh, the new cap, under severe pressure. And it'll be interesting. This is a different story altogether, because the Springboks are a formidable scrum.
Step back. And shoulder. Crouch. Touch. Pause. Engage.
Ewan Murray up against him. Beast Mtawawira, South Africa's loose head prop. Cleared away by Blair, into touch, and we'll have a line out. Yeah, that battle at the scrum is going to be significant. Ewan Murray against Mtawawira. It's one of the keys for Scotland today, I would have thought.
Yeah, very much. The first few went down, but there I thought Ewan Murray just got another good shove on there. And again, this is a good game for him to back up a good performance last week against the All Blacks, against the Springboks here today.
John Smith now throwing. Smith to Matfield, has a familiar ring about it. Matfield to de Villiers does as well. One of the most potent centres in the world at the moment, Jean de Villiers. Now, big turnover from Scotland. Terrific, winning the ball back. Godman into some space in between Jantjes and Peterson. It's Jantjes who takes the responsibility for the kick. But for the first time really since we kicked off, Scotland can now perhaps launch something themselves.
Yeah, indeed, they've got good field position. You can see here John Smith just tries an offload where it was probably a forward pass, but never actually got into the tight head's hands. And Scotland now have got this line out on the 10-yard line. They must try and get a ball, because in the first 6 minutes they've really not touched the ball other than Mike Blair kicking it.
Ross Ford with the throw, taken in by Nathan Hines, and Scotland running really for the first time.
7 off.
That's the 10-metre line. Blair to Patterson, who'd come up from fullback.
Hands off.
Very familiar with that standoff position, of course. He's played much of his Test career at 10. Today, though, it's Godman, which was interesting. It worked, however, for Rory Lamont. Over the shoulder injury that's kept him sidelined in recent weeks.
Away one.
Taken on again by Nathan Hines. That's the Springbok 22. First time Murrayfield has had something to get behind. It's John Barclay's blonde-haired bonds poking out. Hines has possession. This is Alan Jacobson. Old-fashioned, no-nonsense chunk of a prop forward, but he's lost possession. Ball was stripped from him. Here goes Jacobs. Habana was calling for it.
First pass is forward. No advantage. Knock on. Scrum green.
Clear from Dave Pearson. Knock on, so we'll come back for the early forward pass.
A good play for Scotland. They kept the phases going there. This is right at the end. I mean, that's poor ball, in fact, for Alan Jacobson. The prop shouldn't be taking a stationary ball. He's got to inject some sort of pace onto that. He just gets turned over here, but you can see that forward pass from behind the 22. It finished up the other side of the line. Good decision by it was the touch judge that gave it, actually, the far side. But Scotland won't be too disappointed. They had a number of phases there, and they looked. There was a crossfield kick that came off, and Scotland now just need to try and keep them down in this part of the field.
Touch judge on the far side, by the way, is Alain Rowland, who was in charge of the World Cup final last year. Hugh Watkins from Wales is patrolling the near side touchline. There's Rowland. And there's Hugh Watkins. Big scrum from Scotland. South Africa managing to control the ball at the back. Here goes Jacobs again. Inside to Habana. Resting on his laurels, I think was Campese's phrase. Campese, perhaps not surprisingly, is in London today rather than Edinburgh, watching England against Australia. Jacobs chases the ball. Well taken by Patterson. Runs into Juan Smith. Juan Smith seems to have come out second best from that little confrontation. This is Matfield. Berger. Penalty to Scotland. Again, for the second time, South African bodies diving over the ball. Jean de Villiers.
Scotland got away with that, really, because when they got that turnover ball from there obviously been a collision there between Patterson and Smith, but the Springboks, I think we can probably see the high ball here. There was a criticism last week. Chris Patterson didn't get under the high ball that led to Richard Kahui's try at the start of the second half, and he really attacked this. He kept his eye on the ball, and then the contact there, shoulder into the face there, I think, probably. But when that ball was turned over, I was really concerned, because the Springboks had an awful lot of numbers and you can see Chris Patterson's eyes just closing up there, his left eye. Hope that won't affect his vision for his... he's coming off, actually.
Well, Hugo Southwell is on. The question that has to be answered is it a permanent substitution? Is Chris Patterson going off for a blood injury? Can't see much blood. Well, Dave Pearson telling us that it is a blood injury, so they will try and get Patterson patched up as quickly as possible and get him back on, Andy.
I'm no doctor, but that looked... when something comes up as quickly as that, I just wondered if it was his eye socket, because it's certainly... I'm watching him go up the tunnel, and Sam Hewitt, the second doctor's taking him up there, because James Robson is on with Phil Godman, who's got blood. That's definitely blood.
Now that is a blood injury.
But suddenly the disruption now to Scotland. There's two major players for Scotland, and Phil Godman and Chris Patterson off the park now. So Dan Parkinson's on at stand-off, and Hugo Southwell goes in at full-back. Both obviously very familiar to those two positions, but Scotland have trained all week with the backline that started, and after 10 minutes suddenly they've got two major changes.
Well, South Africa have lost their first-choice hooker. Scotland have lost their fly-half and their full-back for the time being. Interesting times. Terrific take from Jason White. His 69th cap today. They'll need all of his experience. Here goes Dan Parks for the first time. First chance to have a look at Ben Cairns, the centre. He's whistled backwards like a supermarket trolley. Lamont. Ross Ford taking Scotland purposefully up towards the 22, but just look at the battle for the ball on the floor. South Africa all over them. Penalty coming to Scotland. Illegal tackling. Jason White. And Scotland get the penalty, and they therefore have the opportunity to take the lead for the first time.
They do. We knew it was going to be physical, Nick, and it's proved that in the first 10 minutes. Look here, January makes the tackle, but Schalkberger comes in and there's no arms. What Dave Pearson, the referee, said, there's no attempt to put his arms around Ross Ford. He just went in with the shoulder, and that is illegal, hence why the penalty came. You can see him here, he'll put the left shoulder coming in, no arms going to go around him whatsoever. That's dangerous, and that's why he's been penalised.
Bit of applause would be better, wouldn't it?
And with Chris Patterson off,